rise up in the morning beneath the stars so bright. Pull your hat down, make sure your cinch is tight. Horses kinda snuffy, cold chill up your spine. You'll get your ass moving, son, we're burning daylight.
Howdy there, I'm Matt McKinley and we're burning daylight.
In the saddle till the job's done right.
Welcome to Burning Daylight, the only podcast for the working cowboy.
Oh, hey there, fellas. And ladies, there are ladies. I had a lady subscriber on Patreon today, so appreciate that. Bridget, I believe. I hope you don't get the wrong impression. This is not that type of Patreon. It is strictly for dick jokes, not for dick showing. You got to pay way more than the $5 a month to get that. And yeah, anyway, it's not worth it anyways, if we're really being honest. But anyway, I hope y'all are having a good week. It's boy, everything is getting ready to be real busy, real crazy. And the news cycle is no different at all. Aaron, speaking of crazy, he is off at the movies with his wife. I guarantee you it's a gay movie because Aaron is secretly gay and he likes to try to disguise it. We all know better, and it's fine. Do your thing. You got a really lovely wife and kids. I don't know why you got to lie to yourself, but hey, do it for the kids. All right. Anyway, Aaron's out this week, treating his lovely wife to a gay movie. Speaking of things that are kind of gay, and I don't know exactly what to think of them. This is a weird one. Honestly, like really, really fucking weird. So this is from Washington Post, which is a reliable source of news because Jeff Bezos owns it. And yeah, he I wish Jeff Bezos today had bought the Washington Post as opposed to like Jeff Bezos back when he actually did buy the Washington Post, because now he just looks like he's like living the life of a billionaire and doing his own thing and not really fucking worried about meddling in global politics. So anyway, now Washington Post is just an awful source of journalism, but for whatever reason, and myself included, people still take them seriously. And like I said, I don't know why, but Edward Snowden is now a Russian citizen. The headline, as you see, Putin grants citizenship. That's not exactly true at all. I don't know if it is untrue. But if you listen to, there's a show called Breaking Points, which I don't agree with the two hosts of this particular news podcast. I don't agree with them on much of anything policy wise, and their hot takes a lot of the time I think are super cringeworthy. However, they cover a lot of news stories that I find very very valuable that I probably wouldn't have heard about otherwise. And it's one of my main sources of news that at least I have to go take another look into. And but anyway, if you listen to Breaking Points with Crystal and Sagar from today as I'm recording this, so that's the September, 27th, I believe. Yeah, 27th. At the end of that episode, they did an interview with Glenn Greenwald, who is the guy that Edward Snowden initially contacted. Glenn Greenwald is an excellent journalist. He is a like a hardcore left winger socialist type, but he does really, really good journalistic work. He takes his job as a journalist very seriously and reports on stories that are relevant and important. And he was one of the first people that that Edward Snowden had contacted when he leaked all of his whistleblower information to the press. Which that's one thing that like needs to be made clear, way more clear than they made in this article here in the Washington Post. Who won a Pulitzer Prize, by the way. They won a Pulitzer Prize on their reporting that they did from the documents that were released by Edward Snowden. A Pulitzer Prize. And in this article, I believe it has been edited since then, but the way they made it real clear that Edward Snowden is still on under charges facing charges under the Espionage Act, which is an absolute horseshit law, which was put into place to put journalists and anti-war activists in jail. Anybody who spoke out against the U.S. entry into World War I. That the law is still on the books and is one of the laws that one Donald J. Trump is being prosecuted, or supposedly in violation of, or at least being under investigation of violating the Espionage Act. Anyway, it's a horseshit act. Edward Snowden, if you don't remember, is a former NSA analyst and contractor, government contractor, who released a whole bunch of information, most of it pertaining to the way that the United States government was illegally, unconstitutionally spying on essentially every adult and several non-adults in the United States through their cell phone metadata, and as a matter of fact, their the NSA director lied under oath to Congress that such spying was even taking place in the first place. Regardless of how you feel about him on a political stance, but if you value privacy at all, and the fact that the Constitution, due process, all of that, if you believe in any of that, whistleblower protection, then you should be on the side of Edward Snowden. The argument that the government makes is that in exposing all these records, he also exposed the ways that we were spying on our allies and potential sources and methods that we didn't want to get out to the public because China and Russia and whoever the fuck else might be able to replicate them. And also, it kind of looks bad when we call Germany and the United Kingdom and Spain and whoever else that we spied upon. We call them some of our closest allies in the world, and yet here it is in in bold print that hey, we spied on you too, buddy. Nothing personal, Just it's how the game works, right? We're all spying on everybody. And I've come to accept that. But up until Edward Snowden leaked all this stuff to the press, as a whistleblower, by the way, Yeah, we didn't know the true extent of how much, how often, and to what detail the government was actually spying on us. So anyway, you can have all whatever opinions you think of on Edward Snowden, but now he is I think he started the process back last year or the year before. Had a lot to do with COVID. He has a wife who I guess they essentially gave him the Russian green card. I don't know if that's a red card. I don't know if they still recognize like the red as the main color, being a former communist country. So do they give him a red card or a green card or a yellow card? I would imagine, given Russia's take on the gay stuff over there, the rainbow card is not given out unless you're like headed straight for the gulag. I don't think. But once again, I've not been to Russia, and I've not really studied them a whole hell of a lot, so I don't know how their badge system works. Anyhow, they gave him permanent residency in I think in 2020, and now like almost like exactly at the same time that they announced their war mobilization, which will also this is going to be a Russia heavy episode. Russia, China, it's a doozy. Anyway, so this guy, he leaks a bunch of information. Does it as a whistleblower, expecting to get some sort of protection because he's like, hey, people ought to know that the government is spying on fucking everybody. And they say they're not doing it. They said, in front of Congress under oath that they're not doing it, but they totally fucking are. I got the receipts. And so he leaks them out, and he got no whistleblower protection, like none. He was branded as a traitor and a spy, and then there went on. It was, I forget how long it was, but it was a couple months, I believe. There was like this big wild goose chase of where's Snowden. It was kind of like where's Hunter back in the day, and I guess it was where's Joe during the campaign. But this one was where's Snowden. Well, he hid out. I believe it was in Hong Kong. I don't believe it was mainland China, but I think it was in Hong Kong. He was hiding out. And he had finally secured asylum status in Ecuador or somewhere. But the problem was he had to get from Hong Kong to Ecuador. It was kind of a dicey proposition, but they got... I listened to his book, audio book, here a while back. So I'm not real fresh on what was going on, but it was like right after I started this podcast, a couple of months after I listened to his audio book, and it's really interesting. But essentially, there were only so many different ways to get to Ecuador, and I believe that's where he was granted asylum. They had to get from Hong Kong to there, and the Obama administration put the squeeze on a bunch of different countries that would not let him fly through there. So his only available route was through Moscow and then over to somewhere in South America. I can't remember. I believe it was Ecuador, but I don't. It might have been Panama. Fuck, who knows? I don't know. That's irrelevant at the moment. I don't know. I don't know if that part's even pertinent to the story. Either way, to get to wherever he was going in South America, he had to go through Moscow. And in the meantime, while he's waiting to catch his his transfer flight, so he gets off the plane. I don't know how long his layover was, but I think it was a couple hours or something. And in the meantime, like he is like one of the number one like worldwide news topics. Where's Edward Snowden? He's on the move. He's on the move. Where's he at? And then whatever South American country it was, while I think it was like literally like a thriller movie. Like as he's in line to board the plane, the South American country revokes their their grant of asylum or whatever they call it. They allow them to declare asylum, and then they're like, nope, sorry. And as he's getting ready to board the plane, his ticket gets flagged or what the fuck ever, or he gets a notification beforehand, and then he basically took up residence in the Moscow airport for no idea how long, but I think it was 6 months, somewhere in that range. It was months. I know that months, and then that was all in 2013. And eventually Russia granted him asylum, and he's been living there ever since. He's still facing charges under the Espionage Act. If he ever comes back to the United States, there's a really interesting conversation on Breaking Points with Glenn Greenwald, who worked pretty closely, very closely, and publicly and behind the scenes to get both Edward Snowden and Julian Assange pardoned. And that was definitely on the table until the whole January 6th thing went down. And some of the key votes from Republicans, Lindsey Graham and probably Mitt Romney. Well, Mitt Romney already voted against him anyways, but who else did he say? Oh, Marco Rubio. It was Lindsey Graham and Marco Rubio in particular. Basically said, if you're gonna pardon Snowden and Assange, then you can go ahead and count on us voting to impeach you or to convict you on this impeachment trial. And so that was a big reason as to why he decided not to pardon Julian Assange and Edward Snowden. But all that aside, this dude is essentially facing prison time for warning the American public about something that we already knew, but we didn't know the true extent of it. I would consider this guy a patriot, and I don't know what his ultimate goals are and his end game is, but I would highly doubt that his end goal and his like grand scheme is to become a Russian citizen right exactly at the same time when Russia is instituting their first like real military mobilization since World War II. So not an ideal time. And by the way, for the United States, not an ideal time for Russia to just go ahead and be like, this is ours now. He lives here. He's Russian now. Sorry. He's Russian now. You go away. He's Russian. And on that note, Russia is going to war. If they hadn't been already, they fucking mean it this time, all right? They're really going to war. And shit is wild everywhere. We might think we've got some kerfuffles going on here within the United States, and we do. We've got some major kerfuffles. Like kerfuffle level, like atomic level kerfuffle, literally. However, that being said, we are still not in Russia. So we talked a little bit about it on Fence Post Politics last week, but to kind of hone in a little bit more on that. And this also coincides with the referendum. Well, I guess it's multiple referendums. So referenda of whether or not 4 regions in Ukraine, being in the east and the south, the Kherson, the Luhansk, Donetsk, and this one's a doozy, let me tell you. It is, what do they call that one? It was Zaporizhzhia. Zaporizhia, maybe. I'm not real for sure. Either way, it's let me see if I can find that. It was fun though. It was a fun article, let me tell you. And so here we go. Russia declares victory in sham Ukraine referendums. This is from Bloomberg. And this was at 10:19 p.m. Eastern time. So yeah, that was about 3 hours ago, I guess. Russian leaders declared victory in a series of state-managed, UN-condemned referendums as the Kremlin moved to annex a large chunk of occupied Ukrainian territory after a string of humiliating military setbacks. We'll come back to that. Dmitry Medvedev, deputy head of Russian Security Council, wrote on his official telegram that in the early hours of Wednesday that the referendums were over. Results are clear, he added. Welcome home to Russia. Head of the self-styled Donetsk People's Republic, Denis Pushilin, posted on Telegram that all ballots have now been counted in his region, with 99.23% of those polled voting to join the Russian Federation. Landslides were also recorded in Kherson, Zaporizhzhia, and Luhansk regions. The state-owned RIA Novosti. There we go. RIA Novosti news agency reported. So this is classic Russia, really. Georgia back in the day was getting ready to join the UK or the EU, not EU, NATO. Getting ready to join NATO, and all of a sudden there was some instability in the region, and Russia moved in troops and dealt with that problem it wasn't very rapidly. Nothing that Russia does except for executing like high-level leaders. And by executing, I mean having them fall out hospital windows. And then having that as the cause of death, like the official cause of death by their state, government officials. That's the best part, is like, oh yeah, he the window not very secure. It's Russia, it's Russia, but he fell up 4 stories. Such a shame. Very smart guy. He's dead now. Could not have been avoided. But in the meantime, that just sends a message to everybody else, because they're not even really trying to hide that, like, oh, if you don't go along with the plan, we'll just throw you out a fucking window. I also should say that remember that all the shit that I'm reporting to you over this stuff is stuff that I have read through, I don't know, at least 6 different news sources. And at no point was I not encountering some sort of propaganda. So at the end of all this, I don't know what the fuck is going on. And I don't think anybody else does either. But anyway, Russia is calling up 300,000 troops. Most of them are going to be former members of the Russian military, veterans, and and the like. Should you have a bum knee, they're just like, hey, sir, here's your papers. Come back to the Russian military. And it's like, but my knee, it's no good. And there's like, yeah, cool story, Igor. Here's a rifle, 7 bullets, I think. This MRE or K ration or whatever the fuck they called it in back in Soviet Union. This you've got one food pouch. It expired during the early 80s Afghan invasion, but it was made at Chernobyl, so it's probably good, okay? And you got that, and you got 7 bullets, none of which fit your rifle. There might be one, but it was a homemade round, and we took it off a Chechen, so you're probably better off throwing it at the Ukrainian guy that you're going to be fighting. But there is a chance, however slight it might be, there is a chance that fires like it's supposed to, and so then you could shoot one Ukrainian guy in the head. But I wouldn't guarantee on that, and if I were you, I would hunker down behind like 3 or 4 guys that are younger than you and let them get shot first. Because the referendums have been held and 99.23% of the vote. So like that's beyond a landslide. That's what we call like the banana republic type result. Not that there was any kind of doubt about what Russia was doing. But anyway, it's same thing they did in Crimea back in 2014, and yeah, they just they marched in a bunch of troops to Crimea, and then they held elections. And I don't think it was quite as blatant as it was this time, where they were like literally going door to door and it's like, you need to vote today. Oh, no vote. Oh. We'll find something else for you to do, and you're not gonna like it. So, vote to join Russia or probably slave labor camp. I don't know, something along those lines. It's hard to say. The Russians have never been really known to be gracious in victory on the battlefield. Like neither have the Germans. Like I don't know if there's one thing that I guess that the Americans can say is like we're, I suppose, the most gracious on the battlefield when it comes to keeping and occupying territory. But yeah, the Russians have not been, and yeah. Anyway, 300,000 troops is what they said. In a public address, and they also said, they're gonna kind of limit it to the veterans and mostly to just like shore up reinforcements and use the guys that have already served before. But that's not what the executive order said. And anyway, as a result, flooded the border, like all the military age males. Are flooding the border, particularly in like Kazakhstan and and Finland are kind of the two border crossings where they're really using it. Like, I don't know if you ever looked at Russia on a map, but it's pretty fucking big. And then if you look at the former Soviet Union on a map, it's even bigger. So, yeah, the borders have been flooded with military-age males trying to get out of Russia so they don't end up in Ukraine on the front lines, which is a real concern. If we're being 100% honest, it's a pretty real concern. Once again, remember that it's all propaganda, so I can't truly verify anything that I've heard reported, but like it's a real problem over there. Like there's a bunch of them trying to escape over to Finland, and to tell you that like it's a real thing. It's in a 1 week period, they experienced an 80% increase in the number of Russians, primarily fighting age males, trying to cross the border. And there doesn't seem to be a whole like big push to stop it just yet. There was also widespread protests and riots and a lot of violence. We'll get to some of the violence later, but I believe in Moscow they arrested something like 1,300 anti-war protesters, and then I forget where I heard it from, but it's from a pretty good source. That those that were arrested for their protests were also the ones that were the first ones conscripted into the military, and they'll probably get about 2 weeks, if they're lucky, of basic training, and then they're headed to the front lines. As far as this like Ukrainian counteroffensive, they probably did strike pretty hard and probably did a little better than what Russia was expecting. But the main goal of this little incursion from the get-go was to get Luhansk, Donetsk, and then southern Ukraine, so that they'd have a land bridge all the way to Crimea, and then also have the water supplied to funnel into Crimea, and then also like that Eastern European or Eastern Ukrainian region that's being fought so hard after has a lot of fucking natural gas. So anyways, all four of those referendums, if you call them, everybody on audio only, it's heavy on the air quotes with these referendums. 99.23% of the vote seems pretty goddamn legitimate, if you ask me. So I'm sure there was no chicanery or fuckery or jackasserism to sway these elections one way or the other. But essentially what that means now is the Russian parliament is going to put forward a bill to annex those four regions, which will get pushed through as fast as humanly possible. And then Vladimir Putin will go ahead and sign that, annexing those four regions into the Russian Federation. And then he'll say, hey, don't attack these areas because that's Russia proper, and I will be forced to respond with anything and everything that I have, including nukes, which he's already threatened, and we've also responded with a threat pretty much in kind. And that's just awesome when we got Russia and the United States like hurling veiled threats about nuclear weapons back and forth at each other. That's fucking cool. Super cool. Cool story, Vladimir. Here's a rifle and a can of peaches and 3 bullets. I think 2 of them for I think they'll fit a U.S. 50 caliber machine gun. But hey, they were in the storehouse, and it's better than no bullets. So if you get in a real jam, throw that can of peaches right at some Ukrainian's head. All right, get out there on the front line, Vlad. Yeah, you imagine, and so they're also. I think it was the border into Kazakhstan, Kazakhstan. However, the the place where Borat's from. Typically, it's about a 30-minute process to get across the border, and now that's backed up to about 12, 15 hours. And oh fuck, that's just a scene straight out of World War II and the Cold War, where you're just waiting at a border crossing and hoping that you can bullshit your way past this border guard. Are they looking for you? Maybe, but they're also just maybe looking for anybody suspicious, and you fit the bill. So you're just, and what's your age? Oh, you're under 40. You can go to Ukraine, motherfucker. Cool story, Alexei. You're going to Ukraine. Here's a rifle and a chunk of yak butter. Trade it for something else that you might need when you get to the front lines. But be careful. That shit spoils, okay? Yeah. And then you get drafted. Say you're like you're one of these young revolutionary types, just like wanting to do good in the world, and they announce this mobilization, and you're just like, oh hell no, and I'm gonna let him hear this voice. I'm gonna get out there right in St. Petersburg Square, or whatever the fuck it is in Moscow. St. Petersburg, I guess, is another city in Russia. What is it like Communism Square or like Stalin Square, Lenin Square? I don't know. But like the main place where they make their speeches in Russia. Like, and you're just like, fuck you guys, I'm going to protest the shit out of this. And then you get arrested and immediately drafted, and you're just like, fuck, this backfired. Painfully. Very painfully. Probably going to get murked by a long-range U.S.-made missile system that isn't supposed to be there, but hey, we're fighting Russia. And this guy, he was protesting Russia, and now he's dead in a trench in Ukraine somewhere. So that's neat. Cool story, Nikita. Here's a rifle and couple old cans of lutefisk. I don't know if that stuff ever goes bad, but here's your chance to find out. You'll know somewhere in the Donetsk region how good this lutefisk is. Please report back to your command on how that goes. I can't decide if we're on the verge of like a hot world war, or if we're just on like a resurgence of the Cold War. I can't really decide. And but also a lot of reports, and once again, take all of this with a grain of salt, because it is nothing but full-blown propaganda from every side of this story that you can imagine, from Ukraine, Russia, United States, Great Britain. All of the NATO countries are pretty well in lockstep, but not necessarily completely in lockstep. And then you got the Russian side of the story, and then you got the Ukrainian side of the story. And it's all propaganda all the time. So who the fuck knows? Anyhow, cool story, Ivan. Get your ass in the foxhole. We got a war to fight. That's basically from what I understand, the mood in Russia right now. And speaking of authoritarians, fascism is back, baby. According to all the your legacy news outlets, had an election in Italy, and of course it's a parliamentary system, so it's not a two-party, which would be terrible. Everybody looks like, look at these other countries and how much of a shit show it is with their multiple parties. Two parties is the way to go, because you get fucked equally that way, I guess. But you feel like you're fighting the other side while you're getting fucked. So it's kind of I don't know if it's a bondage is the right term. Anyway, Italy voted, and the right-wing coalition won a majority. And what is this lady's name? Georgia, something along there we go. Georgia Maloney. It almost sounds Irish, but it's not spelled like Maloney. It should be. And then maybe I'll take the Italians seriously. Far-right leader Giorgia Meloni has set to become Italian prime minister. So how that works is, if your party doesn't have an outright majority, you've got to find other parties that will back you in leading a new government. And so you don't necessarily have to have the most of the vote, but you got to be able to build a coalition if you don't have a majority. And it seems to be like just a collection of European right-wing groups, which, I think Bernie Sanders would be akin to somebody like, I don't know, Sheriff Joe Arpaio. Like, that'd probably be the same, like a right-winger in Europe would be Bernie Sanders, but in European language, he'd be on the same level as like that super conservative sheriff out there in Arizona. Anyway, I read a lot of articles on this Giorgia Meloni, and I've listened to a couple of her speeches. I'll have to trust the captions that she said what was actually printed up there, but from what I read on the teleprompter, the closed captioning while she was giving a speech, if that was all true, I kind of like her. I agree with her on most, just about everything. I don't know about that, but a lot of the points that she made, I really, really agreed with. It kind of resonated with me, even though I'm not Italian, but she was big on traditional family values, which I think is important. She was anti-LGBTQ, whatever the rest of it that I left off. That agenda, she is anti that. And she is anti mass immigration, particularly coming from Syria, which, if you paid attention at all in the last 15 years, we started some shit over in Syria and never really finished it. Anyway, it sparked off a huge civil war, over 1 million people displaced, and a lot of them coming to Europe. And if you ever look at a map of Italy and their proximity to Syria, the Middle East, and Africa, it's pretty fucking close. Like, close enough where, like Cubans, they can just take a boat over to Italy, just like they do to Florida. So it's a real big issue, kind of pretty much akin to the southern border issue. And she sounds like a regular conservative who has had enough. And everywhere I've seen has pointed out almost exclusively that the party that she's a member of has roots in the fascist movement back in the 20s and 30s. I have not heard if they've put forward a fascist candidate in the last 30 years, but their origins go back to fascism. So that's what we gotta. That's what we're banking our response off of, and therefore she's the next Mussolini. Next Mussolini in Italy. She might be. I don't fucking know. Maybe. It'd be interesting. Like who does Italy go fight with if she is a full fascist? Who's the other full fascist in Europe that we know about? Like Ukraine. I think they're the closest to being like a full-fledged fascist government at the moment. That they've kind of got their hands full at the moment, but I bet you they'll take all the help they can get from Italy if this chick is indeed fascist. But she's also like kind of on the record of like not so much getting involved in the Ukraine deal. She's kind of backed off of that a little bit since she's the new leader and whatnot. But regardless of all that, she's I don't know. Like if fascism did take off again, like I don't know who the allies are there, like who's the big players. I really don't know. It seems like they're like all of Europe is kind of like they're kind of at Russia's got them by the cojones, just squeezing, twisting a little bit, maybe holding them up and giving a little flick to the sack. Yeah. Particularly because winter is coming and pretty mucho rapido, and the energy prices are through the fucking roof. And also, like Nord Stream 2 got shut down over this Ukraine-Russia war, but Nord Stream 1 was still open, and that's the big. I believe it's all natural gas, but anyway, big pipeline coming from Russia into Europe. Yeah, they're having some malfunctions now that speculation is that it was sabotaged by Russia, blowing up a couple different sections, also right in conjunction with military mobilization. Was it the Russians that did it? Yeah, probably. You're gonna prove it. Maybe. Doubtful. But matter. Not much. I think. It seems like Europe is already. They've kind of planted their flag, and they're like, you. We're gonna pay this much oil and no more from Russia, and fine. Just shut down the pipeline. So it's a big chicken contest, and Russia has stockpiled, Germany has stockpiled more firewood than they have in like the modern era. So probably gonna suck in Europe for the foreseeable future, I'd imagine. But also, meanwhile, I forget where these artists came from, but there are Chinese and Russian naval ships like doing exercises off of the Aleutian Islands on the Alaska coast in international waters. But of course, we got to send a Coast Guard ship up there to let them know they're like, hey, we see you. Let them know what's up. Either way, probably not good. Probably not good. I have a couple others. Come on. I got three left. So, Cuba lost power. I can talk about the hurricanes hitting that part of the world, as every hurricane season. So, Cuba, Puerto Rico, Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, that whole eastern seaboard. It's hurricane season. Shit's gonna happen. It's hitting Florida right now, I guess. There's a squabble between Biden and DeSantis about whether or not they talk to each other and whether they should have or not. But in the meantime, Cuba, the entire island has lost power. Their power grid has essentially, what did they say, collapsed. They didn't say imploded, but collapsed due to this hurricane. And as a result, for the first time ever since the communist regime took over in Cuba, they are 100% on equal footing. Very egalitarian right now. Worker is standing, arm in arm, united with worker, who's arm in arm, united with the federal, I don't know what they call it, the federal government, but the Cuban governmental officials. And they are standing arm in arm, united in the fact that they all have no powers or no electrical power, because communism will save the day. Hats off to Cuba. Hope you get that figured out. Another one I thought was really interesting. There were groups of armed black protesters outside the Texas state capitol in Austin, and they were all armed, like heavily armed, much like you would expect from a conservative, I hate to use the word, but like militia type member at these protests. Look at like the Proud Boys and some of those ones that like take the security part really seriously, and they're wearing full kit, flak jacket, carrying an AR or AK, whatever your gun du jour of the day, whatever your gun du jour is, but put them all in blackface, but like real blackface, and they're all like. Yeah, just a bunch of armed black folks, and they're protesting outside the state capitol. Before all you conservatives get nervous, they're also protesting the open borders, and they're pissed off at the Mexicans. So the headline should read is "Armed Blacks Protest Mexicans," because that's literally what happened. But that's not inclusive enough, so it should read "Armed Blacks protest Mexicans, Venezuelans, and other Central Americans." But either way, it was an. I don't know how you'd classify them, except other than just more than anything, just a black rights group. But they were protesting out in front of the Texas Capitol, really giving Greg Abbott some shit for not closing the borders, and also demanding reparations. So, how much do you truly believe in the Second Amendment, all you conservatives? Because if you truly believe in it, then you got to somehow make peace with all these armed black people that also want reparations. And oh man, liberty is a messy thing, isn't it? It's messy shit. But on the, I don't know, I guess, I don't know if the closing note, I guess, Pennsylvania has a really hotly contested Senate race going on. Dr. Oz, I assume some of you know who he is just from his TV career. I'm aware of the name. I still don't know what the fuck that guy's famous for. I know him from TV, I guess, but I don't know anything about him. He's running against like a super Pennsylvanian. He's a union guy from somewhere in, I want to say like the Pittsburgh region. The dude is 6'9" tall, and he goes to all of his events wearing gym shorts and a hoodie. And apparently he's got a bunch of tattoos. And, conservatives being what conservatives are, they can't allow that. The Democrats, those fucking evil Democrats with their tattoos and shit. What next? Where are we going from tattoos? Can't get much worse. But the main controversy is he's got a whole bunch of tattoos, and he's on record saying that he, for every person that died while he was the mayor of this town, he got the date of their death tattooed because it was a big deal for him. He also had a tattoo that said, "I will make you hurt." It was a line from either the Nine Inch Nails or the Johnny Cash song "Hurt." It was a Nine Inch Nails song, also performed by Johnny Cash, but you all know, the song "Hurt," classic song. He decided maybe that wasn't a good thing to have tattooed on him. Got it covered up, and now it's at the forefront of Republican controversy because after the whole Roe versus Wade ruling, boy, the conservative side has went straight back to puritanical behavior, where we're gonna outlaw all the abortions and we're coming for the gays and the birth control. And also for your tattoos with your sinful lyrics. I will make you hurt. What does that mean, John Fetterman? What do you mean by that tattoo? And just so you know, using the fact that it's a cool tattoo as an excuse, not gonna fucking fly around here. Explain yourself, sir. What do you mean by I will make you hurt? Are you a Nine Inch Nails fan? That should disqualify you from being in the Senate. That alone, the tattoo is irrelevant. Fucking tattoos, conservatives. I understand that you might get a couple grannies out in Arkansas, meemaws. They're gonna get upset about the dang tattoos on a United States senator. But also remember, Fox News, they're only going to buy your advertisers' products for like another 6 months before they're gone. And but I mean, if they want to fade into the background of obscurity while everybody else gets their news elsewhere, that's fine too. But maybe this Dr. Oz is just not a great candidate, and they're falling back on this whole deal where tattoos are bad. Okay, tattoos are bad, and so they're on your body permanently, and then it's not a good thing. It's kind of bad. Okay. Yeah, it's what a fucking ridiculous. Of all the shit that you could just harp on about the Democrats, you're you're going after a dude for a tattoo that he had covered. And by the way, it wasn't a swastika. It wasn't anything that. It was just a song lyric. So tattoos are bad, okay. Partisan politics, that's where it's at. Just to make sure you really, really get in there on the partisan politics, and that'll make things better, okay. And just remember the tattoos are bad. Well, what a fucking joke. On the bright side, football has been a lot of fun to watch, and there's been no politics in it. So cheers to the NFL for that. Broncos better get their shit in gear if they're gonna make back that $250 million or whatever they paid Russell Wilson. But anyway, we'll talk more about that on Thursday. I think that's gonna be we're gonna do a football and gambling show. Yeah, it's a weird world out there. I don't like to, I've kind of made a concerted effort to make shit more entertaining here as we're heading into election season, but it's also still very important to keep track of what's going on because shit moves real fast nowadays. So stay informed and but don't take it all too seriously, I guess. I don't know. Yeah, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? Weird world that we live in, but there's some good stuff to take your mind off it. So anyway, this podcast is one of them. Go sign up, subscribe, rate, review, all that shit. And if you'd really like to help the show, head over to patreon.com/burninDaylight. Sign up there or sign up on Spotify for the paid episodes. $4.99 a month is the starting price. That's the price on Spotify. $5 a month is starting spot on Patreon. That's the best way to help out the show. I do appreciate y'all tuning in. Aaron may be back next week. I don't know. He'll be walking a little bit spraddle-legged because, the whole gay shit that he does when he's not doing fence post politics. So he may be back. He may not. I don't know. We'll see. But I bet you the world will still be intact by this time next week. And that's all we can really hope for at this point because, shit could happen. But we'll see you back next week because I think that'll happen. And on that note, y'all have a wonderful rest of the week and move your ass. We're burning daylight.
Up in the morning, beneath the stars so bright. Pull your hat down, make sure your cinch is tight. Horses kinda snuffy, cold chill up your spine. We'll get your ass moving, son, we're burning daylight. Burning daylight. Burning daylight. In the saddle till the job's done right. Burning daylight. Well, life is just a gather, and you won't catch 'em all. But when you ride through the gate, make sure you sit up tall. I can see the horizon, it's looking pretty bright. Well, get your ass moving, son, we're burning daylight. Burning daylight. Burning daylight. In the saddle till the job's done right.